Let's create a pivotal impact. Friends in the industry. So I'm Josh Hannabury, your host here at the Truck Focus podcast. And our mission here is simple. We're connecting transportation industry leaders to the industry to help create a pivotal change. So as we get ready for our amazing conversation today, I really wanted just to take a moment to say thank you to the industry leaders out there that are making a huge impact along the way. So have you ever noticed that as you walk through different seasons of life, different people happen to enter your life at a crucial time? They give you some guidance and they help you navigate through a different challenging season that may arise. When I reflect on this, I can honestly say on multiple occasions, it makes me feel like, where did they even come from? How did they even know what I was going through? Well, one leader that I'm super grateful for is our guest on the podcast today, Danielle Spaar, area manager with Benefits for Trucking. So you see, Danielle has one of the most genuine approaches in her roles at Benefits for Trucking, as she's constantly sharing timely advice in a super encouraging manner. So during our conversation today, we dive into Danielle's journey and how her lifelong appreciation for the transportation industry and the professionals operating within really influences how she's able to serve our industry, as well as working at Benefits for Trucking with a people-first approach. So I really do recommend that you learn more about her by visiting Benefits for Trucking, their website, or connecting with them directly on social media, or with Danielle directly on LinkedIn, or contacting by email. Again, I've included all those links in the show notes. So before we get started in our interview today, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. So if this is the first time you've ever checked out the Truck Focus podcast, I really welcome you to our community. And I'm super grateful that you're here and taking the time to listen. And to our dedicated community, just thank you again for taking the time to listen, but also for applying the knowledge and advice shared through each episode to really help improve our industry through creating a pivotal impact in your day-to-day interactions. So throughout today's conversation with Danielle, I asked that you consider, okay, what is she saying that you can apply in your own journey that's ultimately going to help you create a pivotal impact in the lives of others? So really keep that in mind, because at the end of our interview, I'm going to challenge you to let me know what it is. So also, if you're in a position where you're like, you know what, I can do this. You know what? I can do that. I ask that you share it out and let people know, hey, this advice shared today can really help a lot of people. I encourage you to do it. So I'm super excited for the impact our conversation is going to have. Let's get to it. All right, Danielle, finally. I'm really excited that we get to have you obviously on the Truck Focus podcast. And as our listeners will soon learn that you're a really good person. You're really,
thank you.
Absolutely. I believe your heart's in the right place when we're looking. I'm very observant of who's an influencer within industry, who's really trying to create a positive change. And when we first connected, I'm like, there we go. This is good. So I'm excited that obviously you're on the podcast. I really do welcome you. But I'm also excited for our conversation today. Just again, so myself and our listeners can learn more about what you're obviously up to, what Benefits for Trucking is up to. And I'm just really excited. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
Good.
I agree. I think as well for you, just a real quick shout out for you. Same focus. You know, we're just trying to create that positivity because that's what's going to create growth. I think when I saw your podcast and I've been reading your newsletters, I'm like, yep, this guy is going places, making changes.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. Yes. Here's your $5. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, and I think that's important when like-minded people can collectively work together. I know you're recently on our friend Derek's podcast too. So definitely a huge shout out to the Trucking Entrepreneurs podcast. That guy is making waves, and it's just really exciting to see. Again, we live quite a distance apart. I'm up here in Canada. Obviously, you're not. I say that obviously because you have the smallest amount of an accent compared to myself. So it's exciting, and it is needed, especially right now. I think being a light in a dark place, it's really now is the time to shine in the right way and to really help people and not just say, here's your credit card information. I'm just going to charge you this extra amount. So anyway, I'm excited. So just start us off. Why don't you kind of give us a rundown, obviously, of who you are, but also what your experience has been like just through your journey in the transportation industry and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So, transportation actually for me, it's kind of like a full circle right now because when I was younger, my dad drove truck, and my uncle Paul, in Boston, hey, Uncle, he still drives truck, full time for, I'm pretty sure full time, but for, into Boston. And I always loved these huge trucks. In fact, I went to a truck show when I was like, it was like either 9 or 10 with my dad, and I loved it. And it's funny because back then, not many girls, especially 10-year-old girls, were at the truck show. But it was fascinating to see these beasts, I will say, that are on the road, and I just thought they were so pretty. I know that's not the right word, but um and so then I always appreciated the trucking industry. My grandpa, who passed away when I was 6 months or 6 weeks old. No, wait, just kidding. 6 months. He was a trucker, I mean, and my mom remembers going in, he drove dump trucks and riding with them. It's like always been this part in the background. And so when I joined Benefits for Trucking, like all these memories started flooding back. And I was like, this kind of feels like home, and the respect there for the trucking industry has always been there. When we would be in the back of the station wagon, this is going to date me, but me and my sister, we'd be like, come on. And we'd be trying to get them to, pull their horn. And, just we had a CB radio. It was all that growing up. And so to me, this is very nostalgic. Like I'm kind of going back in time, and yet I see that it has come a long way, and I want to be part of the positivity change that we're talking about.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. I like when you look at the beasts, and when you're 10, a tractor is huge. Like it is, yeah, even a station wagon would seem large, and then you can 10x that and you're about the same size. So
Yeah.
it's a good comparison. So when you said it's like being home, and then you're able to obviously pull on these memories. And I think a lot of times positive memories act as fuel, and it really fuels the fire of why you're doing something. And I think it's a really special journey that you're on because it's in your blood. Obviously, it's in your family, it's in your DNA. You've always had respect for the profession. You understand the industry, and the fact you even know what a CB radio is, like, hats off to you. I think that's really big because a lot of people don't. They think, say, what? It's not a cell phone. So
yeah, exactly.
I think that's a really great opportunity for yourself, though, as you're obviously in the role that you're in now with Benefits for Trucking, and you're thinking about who you're impacting. You're able to then pull on, okay, this they have tough skin. Great. This reminds me of this experience, or this reminds me of this story. So it's nice that you have that well-rounded foundation coming in serving. And I love the fact you're really positive too. I think that's really key.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Benefits for Trucking, before we go any further, where should people go so they can learn more about you? Obviously, as an organization, but maybe they're interested in, what you're doing, becoming a client, that kind of thing. What's the best spot for them to go?
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you'd like to know our full menu, I always recommend them checking out benefitsfortrucking.com. And then the best way really to reach out to me is LinkedIn, Danielle Spaar, and email, which is also on my Facebook, Lovin' My Trucks. But it's Danielle at benefitsfortrucking.com is my email.
Awesome. Yeah, and I make sure to include that in the show notes because it's important that it's nice and easy to be able to get a hold of you and learn more. So appreciate that. So absolutely. So can you kind of touch on two things? First, Benefits for Trucking as an organization, if you can kind of highlight the mission of the organization, what you're doing, but also if you can kind of walk us through from your perspective, what life is like when you're navigating through these conversations in your space.
Yeah, for sure. So Benefits for Trucking, again, what drew me is it's a family business. My boss and president, Zach, his grandfather started out in the whole insurance industry, and Zach has a special passion for trucking. And so when going into this, the core values of we need to help this industry was very clearly seen in talking and interviewing and so forth. And so I try to bring that when I'm talking to people, whether it's on Facebook broadly, LinkedIn, or individually, is that our goal is to help you. It's not to sell you something, especially something you don't need or want, but it's to help you to not only thrive in your business, but thrive as a family, as, a woman or man out on the road, long time, long hours, and you want your family protected, or you want to cover the what ifs. That's our core belief, is just to help you with that protection. We're not any of us on the Benefits for Trucking team. We're kind of like-minded in that respect of, we're not that typical salesy person. We truly just want, if you would like our help, we would love to give it to you type of mentality. And I love that about them. In different jobs that I've had growing up and so forth, I was never your top salesperson. I was always like, so, hey, this is really good for you or whatever. But it was always, if you like it, if you want it, if it feels a good fit, awesome. But if it doesn't, I don't want you to get it, type of deal. So that aligns with my job now, my position. And I really, really like that about Benefits for Trucking.
That's awesome. I didn't know it was that, I guess, that long of a history too as an organization. So again, when you're in something for the long haul, your life happens. And the fact that you can stay true to the course, even though life is happening around you, I think that really speaks to the passion, to the knowledge, the understanding of the leadership and the ownership team. So I think that's really powerful. But then when you mentioned that you're protecting like families, I think that's another really big piece, because everyone identifies what family is a little differently. And it could be a pet, it could be yourself and the love of your truck, or it could be obviously like a spouse and kids and whatnot. But how do you find the satisfaction? So someone buys the right, if it's a policy or the right program, because they had this legitimate concern or desire. Can you kind of walk us through that feeling? Like, you go through the process, obviously, and then they sign, and money's one conversation. Not worry about that right now. It's more so just you as a person. How does that make you feel, knowing, yes, you are protected now and that concern is completely gone? Like, can you walk us through that?
Yes, definitely. So I always try to put myself in their shoes, whoever I'm talking with, right? And I want to have them come away with feeling relief, right? Someone is going to help me through life. And that's what I've received in different experiences in life. And so I want to make sure that they have that feeling. So when they are like, oh, I'm so glad that I talked to you, or I'm so glad that we did this, I feel not so worried anymore. To me, I'm just like, yes, that was the goal, because it is scary out there. Life is scary. Myself, I am one that's been through multiple challenges in life, and I've overcome them. And I want kind of to be out there and say, you can overcome it too, and we can do it together. You're not alone. That's the biggest thing. It's always scary when you're alone, but when you have a friend, when you have a partner that can be like, I got your back, to me, that's the greatest feeling in the world.
Agreed. It is. And it's nice on both sides. It's nice to be the leader, but it's also nice to be the follower and have a trusted leader,
and a cheerleader, like, you can do this type of deal.
Correct. Yeah, that literally speaks to my heart's cry with the Truck Focus podcast. And so anytime I'm in a conversation and I can tell someone really cares about that space, again, those that are listening, hop on YouTube and watch, because it's really powerful watching Danielle's face when you're sincere, you're authentic, but you really care. And I think that's really important when we're navigating through a really tough industry, when there's so many different components of transportation and there's so many unknowns every day. Like, you can be the best planner in the world and it still could fall apart. Yeah. So to know that you have someone on your side that's cheering you on, that's helping you be protected, I think that's you can wear a badge of honor with that for sure.
Yeah, I try, and I really do try and empathize with whoever I'm talking with, and I've had some great, like, half hour long conversations. And it was like, yeah, they weren't gonna, go with the benefits or whatever. But I just was like, man, I just feel for you, whatever they were going through, it kind of came out, and we just tend to end up talking because I want them to get off the phone with me and feel like the world's okay. Like, that's just for me, I think really important, especially those commercials or on Facebook, those ones that you see the dad going off and the kids like running after the truck, or the moms, gone and they're talking via, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to cry on this one. Like I put myself in their shoes, and everyone is just trying to, whether, like you said, whatever family your family looks like, you're just trying to make it happy and successful. And I want to help that, whether it's just a conversation to be like, I'm super stressed today. You know what? Call me and we can just get it off your chest or whatever. It doesn't even have to do with your business. I'm, coming from a hairstylist background. And so I'm and a bartender. So I've got that whole listening, and I'm your therapist, but you don't have to pay $300 an hour under the belt. So that's one thing I really want to come across is I want truly to just help your day be better.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, so that really does sum it up. So I was going to ask, how did you, if it's a learned skill or if it's you just kind of were born with this inactability to really hear and coach and help. But okay, so those are two professions where like I don't go to her anymore because when we moved to different parts of the city, just logistically, unfortunately, didn't make sense. But I always felt better. Her name is Rochelle. And I always felt better going to her house because she literally acted like a life coach. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, so, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So, man, that's powerful. Awesome. So when you're talking with people in industry and I like that you said that you're not like, I'm just going to make the sale kind of thing. Like, how do people respond if it's a cold call, if it's a referral, and they're like, oh, it's true. Like you know how to have a good conversation. You're actually hearing me. Like, how do people respond to that?
It's been hilarious because some are just chuckling, and then we start on a conversation. And this happened not too long ago, and it just cracked me up. I told my husband afterwards, I was like, you're lucky I love you, because this guy offered me to come out and like just have a beer and chill out. And and I was like, and I felt really good. Like, it wasn't for him, but we were just laughing and he was telling me some stories. And I was like, oh my word, that's hilarious. And he's like, you sound like a fun person. I'm like, well, I try to be. And he's like, I don't know if you're married or, and if you are, great. But if you're not, you ever come out here, let's catch a drink or a bite to eat. And I'm like, you know what? I'll bring my husband. We'll just go. I'm like, I am married, so I can't come out by myself, like I got to respect that. But, awesome. And that was exactly like, that is me. I'll sit down with you and what is it? In Minnesota, chew the cud, or because we got a lot of cows out here. But, yeah, because to me, life is too short and it's too rough. So if you can smile, if you can make someone laugh, that's better than any policy sold.
Totally agreed. I call that pivotal impact, where it's not about the credit card transaction. It's about the impact on that person and understanding that every impact has a domino effect. So I like that you're in that space. I think that's really awesome.
And in a footnote, he ended up like saying, he's like, my business is multi-million-dollar. And I was like, well, I'm proud of you. That's really successful. But I wasn't at the end of that, he didn't come on, but it was fine. It wasn't a good fit for him. He was actually retiring. But yeah, I was like, well, okay, you need to go see this place and you need to travel. I want you to travel, and I'm like giving him advice like I would my dad. Like, don't just sit and read, look out the window. I want you to have a good time with your retirement, and I just felt better after that.
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting when you're a cheerleader for people and how those endorphins get flowing. You serve while receiving. I think that's really important. Yeah, oh, that's awesome. Okay, so when you're looking at industry, which is a very broad term, transportation industry as a whole, how do you differentiate who's a potential client? Is it anyone that happens to be minimum four wheels on the ground working commercially, or how do you identify like your certain or specific clientele?
That's another great thing is that, yes, we basically anyone that touches the transportation industry, because it is um, a machine with a lot of components, right? To make everything successful, to make it so that we get our food at the grocery store and what have you. Um, that's we want to cover everyone so that it continues to be a well-oiled machine. So whether it's logistics, whether it's the drivers themselves, obviously are our top priority, but whether any aspect of it is to us considered a client, we can do small business plans for as little as it's you and another 1099 person. And that's what we love about it. We can also do very big companies. We can do the brokers. We can do the logistic companies. It's basically anyone that touches the transportation industry. We are trying to make it a better industry overall, because it's kind of been left to figure it out yourself, is what I found, coming into this. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. Like, that should not happen. We just saw in 2020 how pivotal and how essential this industry is. We should not just be like, nah, they'll figure it out.
Yes.
We need to be out there and helping. And like I said, with all aspects of it.
Agreed. Completely agree. And I really like that. So I'm really involved in compliance, so carrier compliance. And that's far too often kind of the same verbiage is it's the flip side. I'm too busy to figure this out. What am I supposed to do here? And when push comes to shove and you're potentially getting sued or you're under a review or an audit, you don't want to hope your ducks run a row. And it's the same thing in this space where, okay, my ankle is broken, or I am here in this environment now. I hope I have coverage. Like it doesn't really sit too
Exactly.
well. So yeah, I like that you have let's spearhead this approach too, because far too
Mhm.
often people say, it's always been that way and it's fine. It's like, no, it's not. Like,
Yeah.
so that's awesome. Okay, I
And
respect that.
that's one thing too that we hear a lot, that like, oh well, I've got a bunch of 1099 guys, they're on their own, they're good. And we like to tell them, say, well, we don't want them to be on their own. It costs nothing for you to be able to give them a good discount, and that's appreciation, on both sides. And then maybe they will think twice about maybe going, not catching that load, or going somewhere else, and that's one thing that we kind of preach, is that everyone's important. And that's why we have the products that we do, is that it doesn't have to be your typical boss employee relationship, and it doesn't have to take you any time. One of the things that we do is we do all the enrollment. You just basically say, okay, you can tell my people about this. Okay, you go and have a good day. We will take care of it. We'll keep you abreast, but if you want like a hands-off approach, we will give that to you, because we feel it's that important for them to just have knowledge, to just have education, so that they can make an educated choice.
Powerful. Very smart. Yeah. And so from a carrier's perspective, they're always trying to retain two specific types of people: their professional driver, well, and their workforce, but also
Mm-hmm.
their customers.
Mm-hmm.
And without their professional workforce, they don't have customers. They
Yep.
had customers, but they don't anymore. So when you're really in the retention space, how do I treat people as people? How do I elevate professionalism? It's exactly what you just said. And then it's, okay, my part is done, right? You're going to handle the rest. Okay, like I can see that it's a huge win. And then you're right. It's a question of, well, of course I'm going to do this load because I have tons of respect for so and so because X, Y, and Z. That's a huge culture shift right there from
Mm-hmm.
employer, from owner operator. Like I think that's exciting. But then on the flip side, a happy professional treats someone's customers 1,000 times better than a disgruntled
Yes.
unprofessional. So you're hitting a lot of boxes just with that level of service. Really well done.
Thank you. And also it really does protect the business. I also owned a salon, and when you have people going to bat for you, say, circumstances change all the time, and they end up, not being at your facility. Well, guess what? They will have the best um choices of words when they talking about, oh yeah, I worked there, and yeah, I'm not, situation, but oh, they were the best, and da, da, da. That's what you want, and so you have to think of forward thinking, of long thinking, instead of right here, right in front of you.
Agreed. Yeah, it's interesting when you think of brand and like who's a brand ambassador and who's a champion, even if they're not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes a long way, where you never know who's listening. You never know who knows who. So if they're saying,
Yep.
I don't work there anymore, it's been 5 years, but they're one of the best places to do business with. Okay, that's a really powerful reputation. So again, it's nice that all of that can be funneled through your relationships, your conversation, obviously the services that you're providing. I think that's really strategic.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So from a benefits, like the offerings itself, can you kind of give us I know that there's a lot, so kind of an overview though of like what could someone expect, and then as well as coverage. Is it North America, stateside only? Where do you cover?
Yep. So our benefits, our main big concern is health. We really want everyone to be protected. And like I said before, it can start with just you as the owner and one either 1099 or W-2 person. That's with the health. But we also offer legal plans, because that is something that is getting hit big time, where some dodo head cuts off a huge truck, and yet somehow the trucker isn't, getting all these bills. And it's like, no. You need someone behind you. We have that. We have sleep study. Again, my president always looks at, he is very open-minded. And if there's something to make the trucker's life better, he is going to take 15 minutes and learn more about that product. And that's like with our sleep study product. It is on an app. It studies your sleep while you're in the cab, not in your comfy bed at home where you get the best night's sleep ever. It is in the cab so that they can see how you're sleeping. Do you have sleep apnea? And then you can get your stuff. You can get your Vader mask, I like to call it, because my husband has one. That was the first thing he did when he put it on. He's like, I am your father. I'm like, oh my word, you're such a dork. But, that is exactly, like, they don't have time to go into the doctor. I mean, my husband did the sleep study test, and I'll tell you, they hook you up to all these monitors, and he had the worst night's sleep ever. How is that going to be good for you trying to analyze how you sleep on the road? It's not. So again, this product that we sell, Drowsel, that's what it does. We do HR. Say you're a small business, but you're like, man, I'm at that point where I don't have time to do all the HR stuff. We have a product that we can get you in touch with. Some of the other things, say I experienced this firsthand, where your growth is so quick and you're like, oh, I need working capital to pay. I need to get more employees. Like, it all always hits at once. Well, we partnered with a great financial person, group, Rock Financial, that can do that. And we always vet who we're working with. We want them to have the same goals and have the same vision and have the same ethics as we do. And those are just a few of them. Another, identity theft. That's been happening to small businesses now, crazy. We have a product to protect that. So it's not, our focus is health. Our focus is life. We're always looking at different carriers and like, okay, how can this help truck drivers? Because sometimes, especially like with life or with short-term disability, we found that they were having a hard time getting it because of their occupation. And we're like, well, that's no good. And so we found our mother company, Colonial Life, and then we contract through a surety and a couple other different ones. We're like, look, we want them to be able to be protected if, for say, they are in their personal vehicle and break a leg. Well, now guess what? They can't work. We want them to be able to pay their mortgage, to be able to pay their bills. And that's what we look at when we bring on a product ourselves. And also affordability. We're like, it shouldn't cost them through the roof just because they're in the transportation industry. And that's, again, what we look at, what we offer. And those are just a few of our menu. We have a benefits menu. You don't have to take anything. It's just, hey, if you would like to offer your employees this, it does not cost you anything, but this is what we as a company like to offer small businesses in the transportation industry.
So smart. So smart. I love so there's two things. One, from a strategic standpoint, like I love strategic partners because we're all really good at something, but you can't be really good at everything. But you can align yourself with people that have the same respect, integrity, morals, direction, excitement. So I really respect that. But I also love something called collective audiences, because when obviously there's a reciprocation. So if you're going to promote someone because it's a phenomenal product that people actually need, okay, well, it's happening on the other side too. So you're creating these relationships and constant exposures where it's like, oh, this is because people do business with those they like, they know, and they trust. Okay, let's do that at a greater scale. How? Collectively. So I really value that. And I actually did not know that you guys went to that extent. So that's really powerful, especially when you think about the new type of challenges that small businesses face. Like identity theft is a huge one. Sleep apnea is just it's like a hidden, oh, I don't have that type thing. It's like a stigma. Yeah. It's like, yeah, might, like just no harm getting checked kind of thing. So, but the fact, like you said, it can be done in the bunk, not at home where you're most likely going to have a little more of a comfortable sleep. Again, really strategic, really smart, really well done.
Thank you. And that, again, is to protect the truck driver and the company, because once they get a diagnosis, they can't drive until they get treatment by a doctor. And so, again, we're looking forward. We're looking at, oh, guess what? You got diagnosed and didn't realize this, and now you can't work. So, again, we're looking at the whole picture. And now for health, we are the, is it called contiguous? 48 states, nationwide. But for our other product, that's with health, but for our other products, Legal Shield, identity theft, we can go into Canada. And for different apps, we can always see what partners are out there again. And if it's not one of ours, maybe we can just help you, because again, the core belief is let's keep this industry going, growing, and thriving.
Nice. Yeah, I really admire that. And it's just, again, it's really good to see. It's really good to watch too, because again, people's face says a lot more that times than I think than the words that coming out of the mouth does. And when you can light up in those environments, I think that's really powerful. And it just speaks to your integrity in this space too. So that's really good.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I think we have a pretty good understanding of how you define success through helping people, but how would a carrier, what feedback have you received when they're saying, hey, Danielle, thank you. Like you really helped us succeed in this space. What would that, I guess, be broken down like?
Yeah. So we get a lot of sighs, like of relief, because nobody wants to deal with insurance. And it's always this unknown. And we're trying to break that down. We're trying to break that barrier down of it shouldn't be of unknown. And they are thankful and they're relieved because it's one less thing off their plate, but yet it's one of those things that nags in the back of your brain, especially if you don't have it yet. It's like, oh, it's one of those things I should get from either my people or my family. And so when it goes through, everyone's enrolled, and we don't just end it there. Like, okay, you're enrolled. Bye. No, we call every month.
Never heard of that before, ever.
It's like we are in a relationship now. And so if you have to break up, we don't want to break up on text. We want to just make sure that we're also checking in on you. Hey, how's the fam doing? How are you doing? Are you having any difficulties in anything that we can help with? That is one thing that Zach, our president's like, this is the beginning of the relationship. And so just like any good relationship, communication is key. And so that's one thing that we want to continue. So with those ones that have enrolled and that are like, yes, this is great, we will say, if it's not the owner, that's fine, but give us a person that we can just contact to make sure you're doing okay. And then we will set up a monthly, and it doesn't have to be long. It's just like a temperature reading. Is there anything I can do for you? Is there, are you having any questions? Are there anything that we can help make your life a little easier? And we just have those contacts or those calls set up so that, again, that relief, that breath of fresh air continues, in the length of that company.
Yes. Yeah, it's really smart. I want to leave that there, but it's also really like you're focused on the human element too, where you mentioned initially that your intention is not always to sell, it's to make sure that person's okay. So if you know that and you have that relationship and your team has that relationship with different organizations, just to reach out and say, hey, just doing a spot check, making sure things are good. People don't take it as, oh, you're just selling something. It's like, no, I genuinely want to know, how are you doing? I think that's really nice that you put in so much legwork to build that relationship. So when you're doing those follow-ups, it's real and it's authentic, and people actually respond like, actually, yeah, like I do need help here. What's going on? Like, so I can see that being very beneficial for industry and obviously for yourselves as an organization too.
Yeah. And it really helps them too, because say right now, they have a plan that maybe doesn't have pregnancy covered, right? And then all of a sudden they start talking, oh yeah, well, we're thinking of starting a family. And I'll pull up, be like, that is awesome. Just know what you're getting into. After 2 years old, they're not so cute. No. Besides that talk, we're
Truth.
just like, okay, yeah. Okay. Just so you know, if you don't have it in your plan, this is what it would cost. This is what a baby would cost. Things like that all of us, sometimes these kiddos are like, okay, we're going to have a baby. And then you're like, do you know how much that costs? Mm-hmm. And making sure that, again, you're covered, you're protected. If that conversation isn't that, then guess what? We're not going to bring it up. But that's what's so important about keeping that relationship, is that then you're not like, well, we had this kid and we got this bill because we didn't know. We never want to hear that. We want to make sure that we become your Aunt Helga that always knows something somehow, but always will be there to help.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's incredible from a customer service standpoint, but going right to the human element, where if you're there when big things are happening, people remember that. And it's just really nice to know you have friends in industry, not just being sold in industry too. So I really admire that approach for sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So the one of my favorite questions before we do end today is your perspective on professional drivers and what you would say you're most grateful for professional drivers. So do you want to run with that?
Yeah, definitely. So my viewpoint is, for a professional driver, is I kind of envision kind of dusty boots, maybe some work gloves, and maybe a really, really used trucker hat. Okay. So you got that visual. To me, that signifies a professional driver. And why is that? It's because that, to me, is the epitome of hard work. It is a grind. It is fixing a tire on the side of the road, or calling or figuring out how to get these, strawberries to their grocery store, or there's a festival going on, the Blueberry Festival in Michigan, and we got to get this ready. That is the professional driver to me, that whether they have a family at home or not, everyone has parents, everyone came from somewhere. And to me, I respect all aspects of life in the trucking industry and with the truck drivers, because it is such a hard job that a lot of times doesn't get the thanks. They get not the greatest treatment. And I think, I don't know how to not get emotional about it, but I just get so mad at people that don't give it the respect that they are due, because I'm one that I will go out and I will thank my garbage truck driver because I'm like, dude, I am so thankful that you do this for me, and I'm trying to put it in the position that they needed to pick it up, and because to me, again, there's appreciation there. And I know what hard work is, and I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, it's powerful. Really speaks volumes, because I think a lot of times it's just one of those, it's a profession where I think a lot of people just kind of go, oh, doesn't impact me until you're in my way. So, okay.
Yep.
Where it's nice. I love this part of my conversations just with industry leaders to say, what do you as a human being genuinely appreciate? And when you can get emotional and you can create scenarios and pictures, I'm like, you get it. And the fact that you go to the human element, you get to the fact where it's like professional drivers do a lot of things we just we're not capable of doing, but also think of the domino effect if they didn't do what they're doing, where if it is strawberries, if it is blueberries, if it is garbage, where again, we just have to continue to really spotlight our appreciation, but not just saying thank you, but doing things deliberately to make life easier. So if it is obviously working with yourself, or if it is just positioning a garbage can in a specific way, because you just understand that ergonomically, this makes more sense. Okay, no problem. But yeah. I really value that answer. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And one thing that I don't want to take too much more of your time, but one thing that I love my cousin did, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great, is during the pandemic when these drivers were just going full tilt, she would put out granola bars and water and little snacks for whoever was coming to her door, because that's what she could do to help the industry. And I thought, that is so awesome, because that little thing to me showed so much appreciation.
Great. It does. And I think thoughtfulness goes a long way. And especially like I've heard countless professional drivers tell me that they're voiceless, that they're kind of the forgotten profession. And it's like, okay, well, let's fix that experience. And it's exactly that. It's the small stuff where it's like, it'd be awesome if everyone had $1 million briefcases to pass out, but that's not reality. What is reality? Okay, well, it could be a cold water and a snack. Okay, awesome. Thanks. I'm not stopping for something unhealthy now. Like there's a lot of benefits there. So I appreciate that she does that too. I think that's powerful.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, well, this was, I had a great time. I really do admire just your perspective on industry and how you're serving industry, really different. And I think we need it. So really shout out to you guys as a company. So as we end, can you give a recap again for where people can visit Benefits for Trucking, but also get in contact with yourself?
Definitely. So check our menu out at benefitsfortrucking.com. And then if you would like any information, if you want to just say hello, go ahead and email me at Danielle@benefitsfortrucking.com. And you can always check me on LinkedIn, awesome. Danielle Spaar.
Good. Yeah, links are directly in the show notes too, because that's really important. Cool. So we'll definitely drive people your way. And again, this was a great conversation. I love that we can laugh in a conversation. We can care, or we can talk about things that really do matter and that are impacting a lot of people. And I just really respect just your profession and really how you're viewing industry. It's really awesome to see. So thanks so much again for taking the time and hopping on. This was fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh, for all that you do and trying to change the perspective and that pivotal impact as well.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. Take care. You too.
Bye. Danielle, honestly, thank you so much for taking the time and joining me on the Truck Focus podcast, but also for the mission that you are on to impact so many people in our industry. It's honestly awesome. So a huge takeaway of our conversation today is when Danielle was talking about being available for people, even if it means not selling a product or a service, but more so focusing on the impact for the person. So that way you're helping them have a better opportunity and a better experience. I think that's super important. And I think that's just a space that a lot of people need to really start adapting. So I appreciate that, Danielle. So I encourage our listeners to learn more about Benefits for Trucking by visiting benefitsfortrucking.com, as well as you can connect with Danielle directly on LinkedIn or by email. I've included all links and contact details in the show notes. So before we end today, again, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. So again, if this is the first time you've ever checked out the Truck Focus podcast, I really do welcome you to our community. Super grateful you took the time to listen. And again, I think Danielle provided so much value today that there's something you can really apply in your journey, as well as to our dedicated listeners and our dedicated community. Thank you so much. I did challenge you at the beginning of this episode to say, hey, if something was shared today that you're like, you know what? Yes, I can apply that. I wanted to know what that is. So sharing this message out, if it's through social media, if it's sending me a direct message, whatever it is, But let me know, okay, what did Danielle say that you're like, you know what, I'm going to apply this to my approach and my way of just operating within our industry to help create a pivotal impact. Let me know. Again, I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you again so much, Danielle, for coming on the podcast and just for what you're doing. I think it's absolutely incredible and it's so needed. So again, everyone, thank you again. As always, let's create a pivotal impact.